Good evening. This is the planning board meeting of June 12th, 2018. If we could please stand for the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, before we start, if there's anyone here for the Eatable parking lot project that was advertised in the newspaper, that project was continued before the abutters notices were mailed. So that meeting, it won't be tonight, it'll be scheduled for July 10th, the meeting of July 10th. All right, the first thing we have on our agenda tonight is an A&R for Jamie Emerson, 57 Wenham Road, Assessors Map 110, Lot 17. This is for discussion, possible vote. So I think we were shown this before. Do you have anything to say about this, Stephen?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman. We reviewed this at the last meeting. You can see there on the map that the intent of the plan is to create parcel B and parcel D from land that's owned by 80 Makepeace and create parcel A and parcel C from land of JLK Realty. It appears that in so doing they are bringing the total or aggregate square footage to about 64,644 for parcel B. I'm sorry, 69,604 for parcel B and 65,000 square feet, 674 for parcel D. So there are presently 4 parcels. It looks as though they are trying to merge some of those lines to create 2 parcels.
All right. So it works with all the zoning, the frontage and the square footage and the setback for the building.
That's correct.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions, concerns? No? No? Jen, do you have anything?
I think so.
Okay. No, and Jim? No, I've seen these before, and this looks fine to me.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to endorse the Form A for 57 Wenham Road.
I'll second.
So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Those in favor, say
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, that's it. We have plans to sign.
We do over here, Mr. Chairman, yes. Sign anywhere. Actually, Bruce, secretary. You're secretary, aren't you?
Yeah.
You can sign in the second spot.
Alright.
Yeah, he's gonna walk up with this, sir. Yep.
Alright, sir. It's a squeaky pen.
Sixth time of the day sitting down today.
Not even close. It started at 4 o'clock, that's for sure.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, sir.
Nice to see you, Rich.
All right, next we have a sign permit. It's Fresh and Friendly Seafood Market, 145 South Main Street. Is there anyone here for that sign tonight? Okay, no. So Stephen, what do we have for this, what do you have to add?
Well, it looks, it's fairly straightforward. It does appear to be consistent as it's proposed with the zoning. This location is in the same plaza as Little Red Smoke Shop. Attached to the application, you can see a single-sided white PVC black cut vinyl, 12 inches by 44 inches. That's the pylon outside sign, and then we have on the building itself, we have a 120 inch by 24 inch single-sided black cut vinyl install on the building. Again, the application as it's presented does appear to be compliant with the zoning.
Do you have the original application?
Does anybody have any questions or concerns? I guess nobody's here for that sign. But since it complies, I guess it's pretty easy.
Mr. Chairman, I would only also, part of the concerns expressed by the board in the past when an applicant wasn't present was with regard to lighting and location. In this instance, it's pretty evident to staff that its location is pretty well established by pre-existing signs and pre-existing structures. It's not clear to me offhand without reviewing the material whether the sign is already lit, but it is consistent nonetheless with the other businesses that are located in that plaza.
Doesn't look like the one on the building is lit.
No, but there's lighting on the marquees.
Yes, yep.
Yeah.
I don't even know if this requires, it doesn't require a building permit necessarily.
Mr. Chairman, all of the signs in town, even a slight moderation or reinstall would require a permit.
Okay, even though we're not sticking it in the ground, it's just sticking it on the sign, okay. All right, entertain is there any questions, concerns?
No, I think it's great to see another business like this come to town.
Here, here.
That's not a large chain. I mean, just the name, Fresh and Friendly, like that completely fits our rural character. This is great. I was so excited to see this come across.
Oh, it is nice. Yeah, usually, somebody comes during the evening and they would tell us about their business, the hours that they're gonna be open. But since there isn't anybody here to tell us that, we'll have to go to the store to figure it out and
Yeah.
ask them.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the sign permit for Fresh and Friendly Seafood Market with the following conditions. There's to be no lighting added to the one that's on the building, and a building permit is required.
Second that.
So we have a motion and a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so that was unanimous. So, we can sign, you can pass that around once we get that on,
Oh, yes.
just before the end of the meeting.
Yeah, because I'll have to fill that in.
So similar to this,
Yeah, I wrote it down for my notes.
you know, you fill out the date presented, date reviewed. And the decision date. And it was approved or denied, and then just the conditions on the original, if this is the original,
Okay.
and then everybody just signs it.
Okay.
I'm a wicked good helper.
Okay, so next we have a public hearing, and it's continued on the application of Jacob Brayley requesting a special permit pursuant to sections 2300, 2900, and 5300 of the Carver zoning bylaw located at 78 Rochester Road in Carver, Mass. Assessors map 9, lot 6-5 to allow a bed and breakfast in the residential agricultural area. Okay, thank you. Oh, it's just That's the,
Yep.
good evening.
How are you?
Good, and yourself?
Very well.
So we did go out for a site visit. And so what do you have to add to this?
Mr. Chairman, we visited the site on 6/4 at 6 o'clock. Thank you, Mr. Sinclair. And at that time, the planning board, according to my notes here, expressed only one matter of, I dare say, consternation, and that is with regard to the alarm for the outside access to the pool. In that interim period, Mr. Braley has responded to staff with some suggestions for what the alarm would be. And having talked to our resident expert electrician, it seems to me that it seems to me that it is compliant with state codes. And that was at that time of the site visit the only matter that arose, with the exception of the director of planning inappropriately parking in a place that he likely should not have parked.
Okay, yes, we did, just so everybody knows, we did review the property line, we did review the where the driveway was, and we did review the lawn that was over to the, actually in front of the house, because we had a couple of neighbors have questions about that, so we looked at that. And we thought that it should be fine. So, does anybody on the board have, do we have anything from the fire department? Do we have a letters of compliance or anything like that?
On the heels of our site visit, I'm only just now reminded that I hadn't received anything from Jesse at this time, but I can certainly circle back to him.
Yeah, because he was gonna look at the smoke alarms and,
That's right, yeah.
and then what Will had suggested for the door outside.
Yeah, that would be, Mr. Chair, just through you, that would be upon them getting their building permit. They'd
Okay.
have to meet all those requirements from the building inspector and from the fire department for safety and
Okay.
stuff, so. I think Jesse was just coming out to do his due diligence, and it was great to see the fire department represented at our site visits. I like that a lot, and I was very happy to see him. I wanted to thank you very much for inviting us to a beautiful piece of property. You are nestled back, and it's nice. I do agree with what we all witnessed out there, that the parking is very well done. It's less intrusive. There's no issue with the neighbors or anything like that. At least that's what we got from it. So I think that it's a good use for that area. I think that he'll do very well there, because this town is spurting, and Edaville is cranking, and King Richard's fair, and there's not enough places for people to stay. So I'm highly encouraged by the B&B.
Mr. Chairman, I just consulted my notes from that site visit, and I do believe that Mr. Boyle at that time did reflect that he was going to visit the inside of the home as we were departing, and if there were any concerns, he was going to circle back to us. Having heard nothing, and knowing how punctual and attentive Jesse is, my sense is that if he did experience anything that was a problem for him, he would have responded in turn.
Okay, good, well, thank you. Any members of the board have any questions? Jim? No, we had a good visit. I think it was raining that day, but it was still a good visit. It was a nice, beautiful property. Do you have anything to add to the, any questions for the board or any? Okay. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone here tonight that has any questions or concerns? Seeing nobody coming forward, entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing for Jacob Bradley, 78 Rochester Road.
I'll second.
So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That was unanimous. So, good luck.
Well, we have to do conditions.
Oh,
Special permit, so we gotta lay out conditions, and then what normally ends up happening is we'll do conditions for the special permit. Get them to
That's right.
staff and the director of planning to formally put in a document to bring to our next meeting to sign. But there'll be no more public input.
Okay.
Then we just approve the conditions and we're done, so that's normally how the process goes.
Okay.
So I would say at least at a minimum, a standard blanket of conditions according to Mass General Law and all that other stuff. I don't see any other thing that I can think of that we might have to add as for a normal condition on my end. I'm pretty happy with everything that was set out.
No, I think it's just the conditions from the fire department, well, upon inspection, and make sure that all those are met. Yeah, I can't think of anything else either.
Maybe just to address the concern of the neighbor, maybe we should put in to continue maintaining that little sliver of grass there, even knowing that you've done a wonderful job. Put that down as a condition, and then there was also a condition of the next door neighbor, that turnaround, not to encroach that on turnaround as you get busier, which I hope you do.
Of course.
So we'll just put that in there for a condition. I think that at least addresses the two neighbors' issues.
Two concerns, okay. Thank you.
As far as next steps, do I schedule the building inspection going
Well,
forward, or is that after the next meeting?
At our next meeting, we'll approve the document.
Okay.
At that stage of the game, your 21-day appeal process will happen, will start. And then you can proceed with all yours at your own risk until after that 21-day.
Okay.
We had very minimal input from the community. So I don't think that you're gonna have a problem with any type of appeal, but you never know, but that is at your own risk.
Okay.
So I think that you'd be able to, after we approve the document, then you'd probably be able to start the process with the building department on getting your permits in place with that. But that
Okay.
will be at your own risk,
Excellent.
which I don't think you're gonna have any problems. It's a great use. I mean, we worked hard at trying to get that bylaw in place many years ago, so I think it's great.
We appreciate it.
Plus you have a beautiful piece of property. All right. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
So, we should continue this to our next meeting?
We'll just have it on the agenda for the next meeting, right? Just to approve the document.
Okay.
That's normally what we end up doing.
Yeah, we should vote on that? Do we usually vote on that?
No, it usually just comes to the next meeting. That's normal process that we've done in the past, so it just comes to the next meeting for a document to be on our agenda to approve the special permit for
The decision with the
the
conditions.
decision with the conditions.
That is then surrendered to the clerk, and then that starts the 21-day appeal process.
Okay.
So next meeting I'll come, we'll sign, and
If you wanna come, we'd love to see you. You don't have to, we can share the document with you prior to the meeting, so that way you're okay with it.
that'd be useful just so I can review it. But, Great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks.
Mr. Chairman, through you, the next meeting is the 26th.
Of June.
In 2 weeks, yes.
Great. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Have a good night.
You as well.
Okay, next on the agenda is a informal discussion for Spring Street Innovation District, State Preferred Developer, SLT Construction.
Mr. Chairman, we're joined tonight by Peter Opachinski, who is the successful respondent to the state's bid for the redevelopment development of what is known as the Spring Street Innovation District. Peter's joining us presently. He'll be glad to give you an insight to
Evening.
what he's thinking for that site.
Does the board have any plans before them, or am I in?
You may have the only ones at
The
present,
only
yes,
one.
Yes. I can run down and grab them.
Yeah, that'd probably be helpful.
Peter, why don't you keep those? I'm gonna run downstairs and grab the ones that Brad had dropped off.
So while we have a little intermission, Peter, congratulations. The IDC and Business Development Committee worked very hard on the Spring Street with the neighbors on trying to come up with a use for that area. I know just for a little history for the community and also for the board, I sat on both of those, and it was a long process that took place, and it's really nice to see a local businessman actually get the.
No, we saw a good opportunity. It was a good fit with our, site business that we run, to have access to the sand and gravel that's on the property. We've already gone before the earth removal committee, and they're writing the decision up, and that should be filed with the town clerk shortly.
That's awesome.
So, works out good. The dirt removal will probably take 3 to 5 years, depending on the volume that we get there, so I just have to have some filings done here
Well,
to
thank you.
honest in terms of the P&S with Mass Department of Transportation that we're buying the property from. They need to see activity on the property.
Yep. I'm really happy to see that a local businessman.
Yep. If one exit from our office, it works great. So altogether, we're purchasing 40 acres from Mass DOT. It's at the intersection of Spring Street and the on-ramp to Route 44 East. So kind of opposite side from where Cisco is right now. The Plimpton portion is about 20 acres. The Carver portion is about 20 acres. The Carver portion is primarily wooded. It abuts Ricketts Pond. In the on-ramp to Route 44 East, the Plimpton parcel is kind of the open area that you would see driving eastbound on 44, where the solar panels are currently in that open area. So the Plimpton side, we're not quite sure what we're gonna do with that yet. We're looking at solar panels for that, or maybe one industrial lot. And on the Carver side of things, which you guys are interested in, we're looking at preliminarily dividing the land up into 3 lots. 1 lot on each side of the proposed roadway, and then a Form A lot on Spring Street. And what we're looking at right now is a series of contractor condominium units, similar to what Buzz Artiano did next to our property off of Plymouth Street. I think he did it the same way, 1 lot on one side of the road, 1 lot on the other, and then multiple lots on multiple buildings on 1 lot. And then the reason that we're showing a Form A lot on Spring Street is just to get a jump on the market, show people what we want to build there. We want to condominiumize the buildings. I don't have a big desire to be a landlord and rent them out, so we're looking at selling the units. They would be anywhere from 1,500 to 7,500 square foot in size. It'd be a Morton building, same way, same look as what Buzz did on Commerce Way. And we'd put up the shell and then customize the interior of the buildings to whatever the tenant's desires were. And then if you look on the left side of the roadway as you go towards the cul-de-sac, it shows 3 buildings on that side of the road. Behind the buildings, we show some smaller rectangular units. Those are self-storage buildings. So we're trying to come up with a good mix. I know my daughter, when she was in between apartments and renting, that we're finding that pretty much all the self-storage units around this area, particularly in Plymouth, are all full. So I think, I said, as we dig the material out, we'll kind of gauge the market. We'll do some market studies and see what the desire is there. But that's it's kind of our plan. There would be 150 to 200 units of self-storage, varying sizes. We'd fence in the area for security purposes. Then our intent is to be a good neighbor like we were over on Plymouth Street. Some nice landscaping, make the place look nice when we're building it out. If you drive by our shop and on Marion Drive, you can see what that's become. It's a lot of nice mature street trees, both on Marion Drive and around the building that we occupy. Keep it clean, and we run this complex the same way. My intent would be to keep this road private so that there's no burden on the town for its services. That's about it. You know, we still have some fine tuning to do with the drawings as far as, water supply, as well as, you know, setbacks from conservation and whatnot. We've already had a wetland scientist flag the wetlands as where we abut, Ricketts Pond, and, anything right now, that we've done earth removal wise, we're just staying outside the 100-foot buffer zone, so we're not encroaching on that. I think we'll have to file, we're gonna file, with conservation, I believe, next week, just to agree that our wetland line is correct. And then as we draw building permits for the individual buildings, we would deal with conservation on a kind of on a per building or per site business, level. And same thing for, you know, I wouldn't wanna come in and try to get all the site plan approval for all these buildings in one shot. I think we do it, you know, one or two at a time as we remove the earth from the property and extend the road back. I'll probably do the road in a couple of phases.
Mr. Chair, through you, you had mentioned the possibility of some renewables on site. Is that done by the end of the cul-de-sac?
You're saying the solar?
Yeah.
Solar would be on the Plumpton side of the property. So at the end of the cul-de-sac, you'll see a proposed easement that we're leaving there.
Yep.
That would be, there's really no other access out to the land that we have in Plimpton. So we're like to provide access at the end of this cul-de-sac.
Yep.
We did have a discussion about earth removal on the Plimpton portion of the project with the earth removal committee, and they would be okay with that as long as they received a fee for the trucks using the Carver roads as we come out of the site. Same as what it wouldn't be as high as the 25 cent a yard that we're paying on the Carver property, but they were looking at like 5 or maybe 10 cents a yard to just cover any miscellaneous road damage.
Well, Mr. Chair, just through you to the applicant, it's exactly what we were envisioning for that property when we were looking at it, and working with the state on trying to get that back on the tax rolls. I like the concept. It worked out extremely well on Plymouth Street on Marion Drive, which they own, and also with Buzz Antiano's property on Commerce Way. That's a great asset to the town, a lot of tax revenue, and two, beautiful buildings up there, well landscaped and stuff. There's no doubt in my mind that you will do a wonderful job there. I do like the idea of the self-storage though. There's no place for storage anywhere.
Yeah, that was my research.
It's-
It was
there's-
everybody's full, and so I've checked in with 3 or 4 places, and they're all pretty much full. And they'd be, be varying sizes. You kind of pick a metal building supplier, and they come up with a scheme as far as what layout works best. They do some of the market research for you. They'll tell you, you need so many 5x5 units, so many 5x10 units.
Sure.
And then they want to, some people like the larger ones, 10x30. So they kind of put it together like a jigsaw puzzle, and they tell you what combination they'd recommend for the area in the market. So that'll be a little bit down the road.
I like it.
Yeah, and the way we have the road designed right now would be just, as you come in, it's pretty much there's an existing curb cut on Spring Street where they had done some earth removal a few years ago. I think we can able to utilize that curb cut. It would slope down for the first 250 feet to a low point. I think if you look on the second or third sheet, shows it shows a drainage basin, and so we'll create a low point about 250 feet in from Spring Street, and then a nice gentle 1% grade all the way up to the cul-de-sac. So the drainage system is fairly simple. It all comes out to the front portion of the project. I think for the left-hand side of the road where the self-storage units are, we're proposing some underground drainage there. Recharge type systems.
What type of businesses do you envision moving into
A
this?
lot of tradespeople.
Just trades?
Yeah, a lot of tradespeople. You know, your plumbers, electricians, HVAC guys, landscapers, a trucking company. You know, if they weren't too large, because I don't want to have a bunch of trucks just parked everywhere on the site. You know, they've got to be able to pretty much keep what they own undercover or behind a limited amount of space that they would have behind the buildings.
Wasn't there talk at one time about putting a gas station here?
On the, up front on Spring Street, that was one of the visions during our, one of the sessions that we had with Serpent, but as we're trying to look for the best use of that property out there, and what basically we could bring to the state saying, you know, what would best go here. That was one of the options that Serpent had come out with, a small convenience store with a gas station right before you get to the on-ramp and that interchange there. But as far as the out back, it was always an R&D
Yeah.
contractor's bay. I think when we first started talking about it on IDC, Buzz Antiano sat on the board, and he had already started his project on Commerce Way. And the success of that just dictated exactly where it was rolling, and it's perfect with the interchange and the access to Route 3, 495, right down 44, with the Cisco building right there should spur some good use there. So it was.
There's another similar project in Pembroke on Route 53. Was started about 5 years ago, and they did condo units there. It's completely sold out now.
Yeah.
And I think this location is better than Route 53 in Pembroke with the access that you have to, 44, 495, Route 3.
Yep.
I think it makes a lot of sense.
I agree. That's a great vision. I mean, we spent a lot of time on trying to come up with an idea to even just to lobby the state to enter into this concept of trying to get it back on the tax rolls.
Now, we had to put quite a bit of thought into it because one of the requirements of Mass DOT was that you had to put a whole project pro forma together, show them what you wanted to do with the land, what your past experience was with developing properties, financial means, all that, and they had the right to reject the bid if they didn't like it. So we had the highest bid, but they also said we had the best bid. So I think they'll agree with you.
Yep.
Mr. Chair, staff has been in constant communication with the state's representative with regard to this project for the last several weeks. And the state has communicated to me several times and has asked me to communicate to this board that when Mr. Opachinsky is ready to proceed with the Form B, that someone from the state will be here. It's important for them to not only participate in this process, but also to listen to the concerns expressed by the community. So it seems to me that this town has not only a good partner and Mr. Opachinsky as a developer, but also the state's very interested in seeing this project become successful.
Great. Anybody else have any other questions?
That's great.
And then Steve had chatted with my engineer who dropped the preliminary plans off today, and so that what we're looking for as far as dates now, could you just
Sure, so
that one more time?
under the most ambitious terms, we have our next meeting on June 26th. Not really certain what that agenda will look like as yet. However, we do have Mr. Opachinsky's submittal, which is in front of you there. That'll, of course, be the Form B hearing. Frankly, once we receive commentary and feedback from the board, that will then inform how and when you proceed to the Form C filing. Is that correct?
Correct.
And so with the Form C, that would require, of course, the advertisements and the abutters list. So it seems to me that
So the meeting on the 26th would not require for just a preliminary discussion?
that's correct,
Okay.
right? And if you were to proceed, say, on the 12th of September, excuse me, the 10th is our next meeting, then we would need the advertisements and the abutters notice by June 21st, so we may submit them to the paper and mail them by June 22nd. That would ensure that we meet the deadlines for the July 10th meeting.
July 10th.
Correct. And of course, those timelines would just be shifted 2 weeks if the goal was the 24th.
Okay, that should work for us.
A great project.
I was wondering when this was gonna come to fruition, so it doesn't seem like that much time has passed, and then here we are. So this is really good.
I can remember when I first get, just for really back, when I first got on the IDC, Frank Mazzilli was a member, the former selectman. When the state came in and took the property from the Coles and all of them and was proceeding with the Route 44 project, and that was forever ago.
Oh, a
And,
long time ago.
And to see from where it was there, envisioning how that would transpire to come to this is encouraging.
Yeah, no, I think it's gonna work well.
I see Mrs. Walsh, right? Are you Mrs. Walsh? No, McGrath. Mrs. McGrath. I know that she participated in quite a bit of our meetings on the IDC about this project and stuff. So it's nice to see you still here with us and watching this transform. Yes, ma'am.
Keep me honest.
She will.
All right, I guess
That's
that's,
about all I have, unless you have any questions.
Not at this time, but I know staff will be in touch with your engineer and the state,
Okay.
and look forward to
Great.
working with you.
Sounds good,
Thanks,
thank you.
Peter. Nice to see you doing well, sir.
Yeah, doing well.
thank you for being here and explaining this to us tonight.
Take all of these back.
Have a good night.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Two.
Peter, I think I need that. I think that's my copy. Yeah, I think that's
That's fine.
perfect. Thank
And
you.
I do have the original of the Form B if you need that.
I think we have the submission from Brad downstairs, so I think we should be
You
okay.
okay with that? Okay.
Thanks, Peter.
All right, other business tonight, planning board member notes. Anybody have anything, any of the members have anything to say tonight?
I'm good.
No, so, planning director notes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate that opportunity. It is incumbent on the planning staff to involve ourselves in areas outside of just the strict parameters of what is the planning department. And so I would like to share with this board and the community who's watching at home that soon, very soon, we will be releasing 2 surveys that we're encouraging the community to participate in. One of which is the COA, Council on Aging, needs assessments that will hopefully capture all seniors in town age 60 and over, those folks who are typically utilizing the COA services. Our desire is to better understand what the needs are of the community. We may also try to capture a sampling of 55 to 60, recognizing that folks in that age bracket will become eligible in very short term to utilize the COA services. I will keep this board apprised of the development of that survey, although it's outside of our jurisdiction. Nonetheless, the planning staff is engaged in that process. Also, planning staff is participating in the library's long-term range plan. The purpose for that is to better ascertain what types of services could or should be offered at the library. That will probably not be as a robust survey, but nonetheless it will have a few weeks lifespan on the internet so folks can participate via SurveyMonkey. And of course, when that becomes available, I'd be glad to inform the board for when it's available. In fact, I would encourage anyone who's listening and who's on the board to participate minimally in the library survey, as it could very well inform the types of programs we look forward to seeing there in the future.
How is the COA going to be presented to the people? Is that going to be something mailed out, or is that going to be something on the internet?
Well, because when we're talking about the age range of say 60 to 114, which is what science I think understands is the extent of the human lifespan. So between 60 and 114, people have different capacities, different skill sets, and different interests. And so what I'd like to do is help the committee work on developing a robust attempt through multiple media, not the least of which through telephone interviews perhaps, Those folks who do feel comfortable using the computer should certainly feel comfortable doing so. But other folks who have a time maybe understanding telephone conversations and also utilizing the computer will have a paper survey as well, I believe. So of course, much of this is going to be informed by costs, but we have an expectation that we can get this survey done by end of October so that results can be analyzed in aggregate by beginning or to middle of November. We may even send out some kind of a reminder card using the COA's mailing list to inquire from folks what type of medium they would prefer to communicate, and then use that feedback as a way to kind of inform our program. Our methodology, though, will take into consideration the various skill sets of our community seniors.
Well, thank you.
Yes, sir.
It's,
Mr. Chair, through you
Mhm.
to the director. Stephen, I was wondering if you could just explain or just let the public know, because I'm aware of some of the grants that have been received coming from the director's office in conjunction with the Water District Commission grant that was recently awarded, and some other ones that you've been working on with staff. Just kind of give a better scope of the other issues that your office and staff has been working on.
Well, thank you for that, Mr. Sinclair. We generally do our job with our heads down and don't often get an opportunity to gloat sometimes when we have some successes. So thank you so much for giving us that platform. We did, in the short time that I've been here, receive 2 grants so far, both of which were competitive. One is the GAP 2 finance grant, which allows municipalities to seek state aid to help improve infrastructure or services. And as Mr. Sinclair alluded, we did receive a $68,000 grant from the state. That $68,000 grant will allow the North Carver Water District to purchase a new suitably sized generator. The one we have presently is 3 to 4 times larger than is necessary. And many times when we lose power, or if it's, well, let me start with, if it's too cold, propane, it's just not able to be utilized. When it is able to be utilized, we have to put a load bearer on there where we're effectively heating outside. There's an annual cost saving or cost under the present model between fuel and technical support of about $10,800. The new generator we'll be able to purchase has a lifespan of 25 years. And when we carry out those fuel and technical costs under the old generator, over the lifespan of the new generator, all told with the investment from the state, the North Carver Water District will save about $503,000 over the next 25 years as a result of this purchase. Now that's of course assuming that fuel prices are locked in as they are today. We can expect over the next quarter century that probably won't be the case. So fuel, the savings might actually be a bit more than that. What's more, the second grant that we won, before I arrived, my predecessor had the forethought to participate in the MVP, the Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness. Effectively, what that does is the state has allowed some funds to be available that allows cities and towns to identify in what ways we are vulnerable to climate change. And as a little bit of a backstory, this community was impacted by 2 fires 7 years apart, one in '57 and again I believe in '64, in which the initial incident resulted in 15,000 square miles of forested land being burnt, 40-foot to 50-foot high walls. 65 communities in the Commonwealth committed 2,300 people to help fight these fires. And again, that happened in '64, as I mentioned, where 1,500 acres burned, and at the height of the flames, 18 acres per minute burned. Now, that's a long way of saying that part of what we had submitted to the state was a request for $200,000, just under $200,000, so that we may do a study to determine where wells can be dug in the town or drilled in the town. The purpose for those wells will be twofold. On the one hand, it will give the fire department access to a water supply if ever in the event they need to fight such a fire again. And what's more, they will, and as we all know too, that we are susceptible to such things as a pitch pine community, which is highly combustible. Secondly, what it does is gives farmers an opportunity to gain access to a water supply in instances of drought. And as we know, we've been impacted by this in the past. There's actually already a community in Massachusetts that has put into effect a water ban as a result of low rates or low levels this year already. I don't know necessarily what to forecast in the next year or even the coming years, but this grant program, with the foresight of, I dare say, the governor and his DHCD team, they provided Carver as one of only 33 communities in the Commonwealth to receive this money. The state gave away $5.1 million. I was able to attend the award ceremony in Peabody, and we are in very good company. In fact, I think only 3 or 4 other southeast communities applied for and received this funding.
Very nice.
Job well done.
Thank you. We will continue to seek new and additional sources of funding to help achieve some of the more pressing and sometimes back burner or forgotten programs and policies that we need to pursue to not only enhance the quality of life in the community, but also to keep us safe.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next is the minutes of May 22nd, 2018. And we had all the members present at that time, so that's good.
We're 2 meetings in a row.
That's good.
Make a motion to accept the minutes of May 22nd.
I'll second.
So I have a motion and a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous. All right, the next meeting date.
Mr. Chair, our next scheduled meeting date is 6/26/18 at 7 o'clock. At that time, it'll be a joint meeting of the Planning Board and the Board of Selectmen.
Okay.
That's at 7 o'clock.
That's correct, yep. Mr. Chair, we'll convene in this room. You'll open the meeting. Part of the purpose for the joint meeting is to, along with the Board of Selectmen, appoint a one-year replacement to fill Mr. Chad Kavicki's membership seat. That individual will run again after the 1 year for re-election. And also, we will be appointing, or the board will be asked to appoint an alternate member. If there are any other business items before the board at that time, we will reconvene, I believe, in another room, since the select board will be in here.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Is there any way that we can get copies of the applications of the people that are applying? And just send them via email would be great.
Yes, Mr. Sinclair?
There's one other item that I'd like to address, if I could, real quick. As far as getting the information out to us for meetings, if there's any chance we can do it prior to the day of the meeting would be great. I know you normally try to do that. It was just hard for me to try to review it today, that's all.
Understood.
How many applicants have we had so far?
3. 3 have been shared with me or are unknown to me.
Anything else?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second now.
We have a motion and a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 7:49.
Okay, thank you and good night.